Discovered my boyfriend was secretly married, visiting his wife on a farm while I cooked homemade meals thinking he was faithful. After months, nay, years of going on disappointing and borderline disastrous dates, I use old sites, live in a fairly large New England city, dating here is really tough for some reason. I finally met a guy who I really clicked with. Our first date was honestly the best date I had ever been on. The chemistry was ebullient and I walked home from the pub feeling like my $39 TJ Maxx heels were filled with some sort of sidewalk skimming helium. To my luck, that infatuated feeling was mutual and we have been almost inseparable ever since. We became close very quickly and it developed into him staying with me a few nights out of the week. I enjoyed his company and didn't feel overwhelmed. This was a significant step for me because I am a serial introvert/loner who needs great amounts of time alone to be happy and functioning. We fell in love quickly and became very close. We established within a week of seeing each other that we both wanted to be in an exclusive relationship with each other. 2 months in, he tells me he loves me, and that the past 2 months have been the best of his life and he wants to spend the rest of his life with me. Of course I'm elated because I feel the same and truly felt he was everything I wanted. All of it. Incredible chemistry sexually and intellectually. I thought this was it. No more dating apps. We're in it for the long haul. This is awesome. I was on cloud 9. Then quarantine happens. Not to rub it in people's faces. But being stuck together at my apartment created a fast-track version of about a blissful intimacy. I live alone, so he would come over just about every other day. We filled the time with so many fun things. We baked weird stuff, played Trivial Pursuit, made fun dinners, built a bird feeder, went on hikes, binged TV shows, stay up all night listening to music and laughing, sometimes having sex 4 times a day, 3 times in one night. We couldn't get enough of each other. We would just lay in bed and stare into each other's eyes. It was like something out of a movie. We both have 9-to-5 corporate jobs, so we would work from home together as well. It was hilariously fun. As I got to know him in this intimate and accelerated courting situation, he presented to me a stable, loving, honest, intelligent and loyal man with strong values that aligned with mine. As all couples do, we shared our past relationship baggage/history. So out it comes. He had just broken up with his girlfriend, this is what he called her, of 5 years the previous summer. So he had been single for just a few months before meeting me. He said they were 2 different people who weren't compatible and had no right being with each other. He said that she suffered from severe mental illness and depended on him emotionally and financially, and despite being an adult woman, couldn't support herself in any way. They met in a PhD program while in London. He's British, she's American, and said she was on a myriad of prescription medication and exhibited self-harming behavior. He described it as a toxic relationship, devoid of sex and intimacy. They both moved to Boston a few years ago together and that after the breakup, he said he no longer had contact with her and she lived upstate on a farm with her family and a dog they had bought together like a month before they broke up. They bought the dog together, not the farm. It sounded messy but hey, it's in the past. Everything is great. We're together, life goes on. I think nothing of it, or her. Fast forward a few weeks later, he comes over to my house and as I'm cooking dinner for us, he flippantly mentions that he just got back from the farm where he had been hanging out with his ex-girlfriend and dog all day, like so casually, as if he had just said yeah I had a 6-inch-foot-long tuna at Subway for lunch. I was floored, started shaking and just couldn't believe what I had just heard. I was confused and felt threatened and insecure. Apparently he had driven 2 hours up to the farm where she works and claims to have barely even exchanged 5 sentences with her and he just went to see his dog. So of course I get quiet. I don't even know what to say. He asks what's wrong, like as in he has no idea how I could possibly be bothered by this. I explain to him that I feel that seeing her is inappropriate and I feel threatened by it. He seems surprised and says it was no big deal and he will continue to do it because he loves and misses his dog. No reassurance at all, no apology. Nothing. We eat dinner in silence and I finally tell him I feel like I am second in priority to a fucking dog and he isn't taking my feelings into consideration. I ask him to leave. He does. He contacts me the following day and tells me that after thinking about it, he realizes that since it bothers me, he won't ever see her or the dog again. I felt like I had possibly come off as slightly controlling but I believed I wasn't being unreasonable. I had been cheated on by a boyfriend in the past, his respective ex was the other woman, so this issue was a huge point of pain for me and knew this. So then things go back to normal. Or so I thought. This past Friday, while on the couch snuggling together, I see a text message notification pop up from the ex-girlfriend. He slides it away and flips his phone over. He then spends the rest of the night faced away from me texting and giggling with a sly smile. I was gutted and knew something was up. After I had just cooked him homemade manicotti. The bastard. We go to bed and my mind is racing. I can't sleep. I know this is emotionally immature and an invasion of his privacy, but after he fell asleep I took his phone into my living room to look through the messages. I find what was my worst fear. He had been carrying on with her continuously without pause. I'm not sure if they ever even broke up. The messages went back even before we had met and the latest was just a few minutes before he fell asleep in my bed with the motherfucking wine I bought in his stupid stomach. Good for her. There were many messages, hell, they even texted each other more than he and I did. He would send us both the same memes and funny Twitter posts. To her credit, her responses were funnier than mine. Good for her. As I went through the messages, I discovered they saw each other almost every other day. I am actually shocked at how he juggled his time so well between us. All of the messages coordinating hangouts was him pursuing her and asking her to hang out. Telling her she is cute. Saying I miss you. Driving 2 hours to help her move or work on their farm. She even cooked him a birthday dinner. He told me he was with his mates that night. Stupidly, I spent the whole night painting him something beautiful and making a 10-hour braised ossobuco for him while he's over at her house eating fried vegetables with staring at her dead troll-looking ass. So I stayed up all night and even recorded the messages on my phone for evidence so he couldn't try to deny anything. I popped a Xanax so I could stay calm and not break my remote control over his stupid head when he woke up. He finally woke up at 6 am. I told him to sit down and told him what I saw. The blood drained from his head and he started to string along a myriad of explanations. That they were just friends and that he feels indebted to her because she is suicidal, mentally unstable and not self-sufficient. He claims that she has no one else to talk to, has no friends and her family is pure abusive trash, even though she lives with them and they all run a non-profit farm that helps low-income people eat healthy foods. What monsters they must be. He feels like he has to take care of her because she is such a mess and a danger to herself, yet this woman is a professor at a large university and is head of a farm, so I don't know how much of a mess she could possibly be. It all sounded like a bunch of bull, but was entertaining watching him attempt to deny and lie what I had just seen in plain black and white text. I then asked him if they were married, because a text message had referenced a $2,400 stimulus check and he said no, they were just engaged. I asked him if they were still together, he said no. The cherry on top was that at no point did he apologize. He claimed that they barely talked and hardly ever saw each other, which was so brazen considering he knew what I had just seen. He said that he can't stand when she opens her mouth and just complains all of the time. He also said that his therapist has been urging him to break communication off with her because she is toxic. Not sure if this is true. The most hurtful part of all of this is that the day after he swore he would never see her again, he texted her asking if he could come see her and then drove up to her place to hang out. After about 15 minutes of talking, I couldn't deal with any more of his crappy attempts at explaining, so I just asked him to leave. The next day he called me and admitted to me that they were in fact married, still married, and they got married in England so she could stay in the country. Is this even a thing? I asked him if they were intimate since we had been together and he said no. He keeps calling me to talk but I deny his calls. I was in love with this person, deeply. The idea of never seeing him again makes me so sad, yet I don't know how this emotion can possibly exist inside me considering how much pain he's caused me by lying, repeatedly. Should I at least hear him out even if we don't reconcile? And if we do decide to somehow make it work, how does one even operate successfully as a couple after such breach of trust? He lied multiple times and he is swearing that this is an isolated incident and doesn't reflect who he is as a person and his core values. My self-esteem is pretty low right now and I feel like someone stuck a Taco Bell spork into my chest cavity. Update 1. I ask, while reading this update, please try to find a tender spot in yourself to recognize that I am only human. I was once deeply in love with this person and my self-esteem has been spun to the viscosity of cotton candy. You may be disappointed with me throughout this post, but you will be proud of me in the end, I promise. I'm like the Tanya Harding of toxic relationships. Or maybe actually the opposite. I dunno, I need to lay off the gin and tonics for tonight perhaps. Also, thank you to all of the people who wrote truly kind-hearted and well thought out responses and suggestions to this bizarre and painful experience. It was immensely helpful to my mental state. I also apologize for the long-windedness of this, but I find that writing is great therapy for me and typing this all out helps me organize my thoughts and bring closure to the situation. Where I left off, I will pick back up. After the whole debacle, I was tempted to block his number, but I kind of just craved those oh so satisfying and cringy begging for forgiveness texts. But to my surprise, they never came. Anyway, the day after the incident, I decide the only way I can possibly find some inner peace was to just hop in my car and barrel down to Cape Cod, blasting some Smashing Pumpkins while plowing through some shitty gas station snacks. Sour gummies, green can Pringles, Red Bull, combos, Funyuns, and glazed donuts. I think the cashier may have thought I was delivering a final meal to a death row inmate. I found relief in periodically pulling down my rearview mirror, looking at my stupid swollen face and yelling fuck. I definitely freaked out a passing Prius full of millennials. Sorry guys, I drive to the very end of the Cape, find a serene beach parking lot and watch the sea. I hadn't eaten in days, so I opened my first bag of Doritos and let me tell you, it was the best thing I have ever felt on my tongue. Life is at that moment, if only fleeting, was peaceful. It was cold outside and the sand was whipping my car windows. I was in my bedroom slippers, high on MSG, and heartbroken but somehow, very calm. As I feel my chest loosen and shoulders drop, his ringtone blasts over my favorite Bonnie Raitt ballad. I want to deny the call because fuck you. For interrupting the first minute of peace I've felt since seeing the black and white deceit, but I figured that as I watched the Whitecaps bounce up, the time for closure would be fitting to match the tumult that the sea and I shared. His voice is flat. We share no pleasantries. He said he just spoke to his therapist. Also, God bless this woman and give her a raise because, Christ on a cracker, I'm sure that with all of his issues, he will undoubtedly be her life's work. He tells me she had just suggested that he should just tell me everything and that after hearing it, it is unlikely I will forgive him. I'm open to listening and embark on this juicy adventure, so I am all ears and completely silent, refuse to add even an or okay. I even put him on mute so I can enjoy my Doritos in hedonistic peace while he goes on his diatribe of excuses. He admits that he has been maintaining a relationship with his wife even though they were broken up since October, and existed just as friends. He tries over and over to distance himself from her, but the problem is he has some strong and unrelenting psychological tie to her. She has some sort of hold over him that he cannot let go of, and that when they were actually dating, he had been trying to break up with her for 2 years but just couldn't. He says there is so much history to let go of and he doesn't know how to get rid of it, and he wants to try to make sense of it. He says he needs to figure it all out and wants to be with me, but it wouldn't be right to be doing that work while being with me because I would be correct and justified in feeling suspicious of his behaviors and actions. Also, that he and I can't be together for at least a few weeks because he needs to get the psychological space correct because that's what fucked up his actions with me. He says that she needs to be psychologically out of his life, not just physically. I am silent, hearing the passion and turmoil in his voice while referring to her. I realize he will never truly get over her, it's over between us, and what we had could have not even possibly been real. Even if he did try, I don't want to be the second priority, the consolation prize, and why should I? Even though I was in love with him, I shouldn't have to wait and hope that one day he wakes up and decides I'm his priority. The whole concept is maddening. As he goes on, he said that he never expected to fall in love with someone, me, so fast, and that he knew he needed to end things with her, but it was just a monkey on his shoulder and he kept putting it off to spare her feelings so she wouldn't have a meltdown. He said that her meltdowns were the worst times of his life. He also kept reiterating that he was apprehensive to tell me about his relationship with her because he loved me so much and was deathly afraid of losing me. Like, how does this even make sense? You can't have all of the cake, bro. He then said that he's never loved someone like the way he loves me, and then said he'd never treated anyone so terribly ever in his whole and doesn't understand why he did it. Gee, thanks. My first instinct was to blame myself, my crooked teeth and armpit fat, my cankles and gray hair. I deserved it. As you approach 40, I guess you put up with more shit from men than when you were a perky little 26-year-old. I really have to get over this concept and gain some self-confidence. Shit, maybe I should spend my stim check on some Botox and a climbing gym membership. He also maintained they are not having sex and haven't since October. To be safe, I went to my local clinic this morning to get an STD test, and my nurse was this amazing, stylish African-American woman, and she goes, "Oh honey, he cheated on you during COVID? Girl, ain't he scared?" I laughed for the first time in a while and it felt so good. I love and appreciate nurses so much. If I do find out I have the clap, someone is leaving Cambridge in a body bag. Oh also, you guys are gonna love this, I am on an immunosuppressive medication that makes me very susceptible to colds and viruses, and this whole time he had been exposing me to her and her family's germs/viruses. I am so immunocompromised and asthmatic, that if I did get COVID I would likely be in a critical/near-death situation. This aspect of selfishness may have been the most hurtful part. In closure, he said that he obviously has some psychological issues to get through and has to figure out why he is the way he is. At this point I can't help but start to cry because I am just gutted and weak and I have no idea what my reasoning was, but I opened my heart to him and proclaimed that I had never felt love for anyone else the way I felt love for him and thought he was put on this earth for us to be together. Maybe I wanted to let him feel how bad he fucked up. He just replied with yeah. Literally just said yeah. I hung up. As I drove home, I realized I fell in love with a man he pretended to be and not the real human he actually is. It was like I had spent the past 6 months of my life living in and watching a movie that starred me being happy, in love, and then enter in stage left, some actor with a cute accent, nice abs, and made me tea in the afternoon. I also then go down a spiral of self-loathing and start comparing myself to her and explore frantically why I alone am not good enough for him. She possibly provided intellectual stimulation for him that I cannot fulfill. She is highly educated and witty. If we did decide to move on as a couple, he will become tired of me because when he had her and me, both aspects of what he needed were being fulfilled, and when and if left with just me, there is no her, no intellect and passion. I was just a cook, a laundry lady and a hole. I realize my place. I cry very hard, go to sleep and wake up feeling closure. The next morning I receive a text from him that says he wants me to know that he is going to meet with his ex later in the week to establish they cannot be friends and that he is committed to me. If there is any chance we can recover from this, he wants to make it happen. I ask him why he can't just call her that day, and he says that he needs to see her in person to do it and that he needs a few days because he is confused and he has to get his head in check because it was all over the place. He feared he may back out because she is so manipulative and convincing and he doesn't trust himself. Tuesday, midday, he calls me and is frantic, jittery and talking a mile a minute. He's out of breath, like this kid had just won the Ironman triathlon. He's joyfully crying and says, "I did it, I told her about you and she was fine with it. She didn't even care. She is even seeing someone too. I am free, it's like a weight off my shoulders, I'm free of her. I want to be with you and I will prove that you can trust me, I want to be with you." I stay silent. I think so what happened to these weeks he had just claimed to have needed to free himself psychologically from her? They just magically resolved themselves in a 15-minute conversation? Miraculous. I roll. He goes on, sounding so triumphant and breathy. There is nothing in the way now, we can move on and be together. Nothing in the way? The betrayal is very much in the way. How about the past 3 months of you lying to me every day? Me never being able to believe a single word you say? Resenting you for everything you had done without conscience. Does he really think I am supposed to just instantly trust him and have him over for some chicken tetrazzini and sex on Saturday night? Also, I start to highly doubt this conversation with his wife even happened. I believe not a thing that comes out of his mouth anymore, so I am unmoved and just sigh. He then adds that he wants us to go to couples therapy and he's going to look into it. I let him rant for a few minutes and all I say to him is, I'm glad you feel good. He's such a narcissist that I felt this would be a fitting dig. I cut off the call by saying I have to go because I'm getting a call on the other line from my creative director. I sit with the news and for a few minutes I sat and watched the trees blow and wondered if love really does conquer all. I felt like somehow I could find it in myself to believe him and learn to trust him again and that I had won. I felt happy. Then I felt really stupid. I opened up all of the screenshots I had saved from the concise Reddit comments I received and realized there was no way it would ever happen between us and would be a precious waste of the last few years of my 30s. Wednesday, I go outside to check my mailbox only to find a bundle of flowers and a letter on the floor of my porch. I open the letter, can't read his handwriting and quickly decide I don't even care to decipher it. It went right in the bin. It was trash day too, thank God. I blocked his phone number. I don't have the emotional bandwidth to tell his wife what he's been up to, and as she has half a brain, I'm sure she knows. Also, if she truly is suicidal, I don't want the information that came from my mouth to be the catalyst for her death or mental breakdown. This crazy train had officially reached its final destination. In a weird state of brazen bliss, I walk across the street and give the flowers to my elderly Mexican neighbor that had been painting his porch steps. He seemed confused at first, but I think he eventually understood what was up. Unless his hefeter rolls through tomorrow and hurls a chancla at me, which would still probably hurt less than this meteor burning through my chest. Have a good weekend everyone. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since I went cold turkey on my accent fraudulent marriage having ex. Time actually played her favorite parlor trick and, slowly, the fire in my ribcage became a memory, then became nothing at all, except when it occasionally, and annoyingly, flares up during certain Bonnie Raitt songs or the smell of English breakfast tea. I did say you'd be proud of me, and I intend to deliver. So what's new? Short answer, almost everything. Except for my taste in weirdly flavored Red Bull and an ever-expanding collection of trauma-induced houseplants. The week after dumping the flowers and blocking him, my life became a weird montage of accidental freedom. I thought I'd be a sobbing mess for months, hell, years. Instead, I started doing things impulsively, not to distract, but to remember how to exist with myself. I ate dinner at 10 p.m., in full pajamas, watching pirated episodes of Great British Bake Off and yelling at anyone who dared overcream their butter. I painted my bathroom a heinous teal. I started jogging. If you count panic walking with bursts of effort while listening to Everlong. There was lightness I'd forgotten existed, no phone checking, no anxious stomach when the ex's British accent filtered through my memory. I realized I'd allowed another human's chaos to color all my days. Never again. God, never again. Then the text started. Not from him, I was merciless. All blocked, deleted, privacy lockdown like a bored housecat with a laser pointer. But from her. I debated sharing this, but it escalated quickly. One rainy Friday night, out of nowhere, I get a DM on Instagram. The profile picture is an awkwardly cropped sheep. My heart did one of those little death spasms. It was the ex-wife. The erstwhile professor/dog mom/possibly misrepresented villain of my personal whodunit. The message, hi. I think we should talk. I'm sorry. Now, I have some self-preservation, but even I couldn't ignore that. I stared for a whole hour before answering. Why? She replied instantly, I just found out about you, I think. Can you tell me what's going on? I really think I'm losing my mind. Reader, I nearly dropped my phone into my mashed potatoes. I braced myself, took a deep breath, and did what I usually do, overshared. We exchanged numbers and I called her. I immediately recognized her accent, a peculiar blend of Midwestern and Old New England, with some Englishisms that made sense, considering. The next 45 minutes were a fever dream. We compared notes, dates, receipts. She had been told things about me, that I was his work friend, a sort of Boston buddy he was helping since I was emotionally fragile, holy projection, Batman. I was apparently jobless, a bit clingy, and constantly texting him for help during quarantine. Bless her, she said, he described you like some lost Victorian orphan. I kind of hated you, but, you know, in a weirdly sympathetic way. She revealed that he'd been staying over with her also every other weekend, to help with the dog and the farm chores, sometimes literally leaving my apartment to drive up to her place for dinner. Now she thought I was the side chick. We both ended up cackling because, honestly, who needed therapy with this much shared trauma? She insisted she'd had her suspicions but was too exhausted to confirm. He weaponized her anxiety, telling her she'd ruin his new life if she tried to check up on him. She sounded deeply tired, sad, and when she talked about her dog she cried in a small, dry way that made me go, Jesus. Neither of us was the villain. We were both supporting actresses in some tragic farce directed by a manchild with no script. We agreed, we owed him nothing, no one deserved this, and, most urgently, it was definitely time to stop baking for men. I suggested a support group entitled Women Who've Cooked for British Sociopaths. She laughed and added, and women who now hate British breakfast foods. To which I agreed, bacon be damned. We texted sporadically after that call. Swapping Instagram memes, feminist manifestos, occasional commentary on how small, narcissistic men often create their own sticky web and get trapped in it. She started dating a woman she met through farm work, and confessed she felt lighter than she had in years. As for me, the full magnitude hit one day while watering my houseplants. I realized that, actually, it wasn't about being chosen, or being the smartest, wittiest, sexiest, whatever. It was about seeing the red flags, respecting myself, and not letting someone else's self-implosion ruin my peace. I started sleeping better. My face unbloated itself. I stopped checking my phone for apologies, and began enjoying my weekends again. Not because I got closure, I just closed the door. I did run into him, because life is a sitcom and New England cities are small, at a bookstore downtown. He looked sheepish, older, thin. I was holding a giant stack of books and wearing a ridiculous hat. He stammered, "Hi, you look," and I cut him off right there with a polite, "Hope you're well." His eyes searched mine for some sign of forgiveness, or maybe weakness, but I just smiled, nodded, turned, and left. And yes, I bought a new copy of Rebecca just to celebrate that moment. So, I'm alive, I'm mostly at peace, 2 new friends and a bathroom the color of a blue raspberry Jolly Rancher Richer. If you are ever in my situation, get the receipts, trust yourself, make a friend if you can, and take up jogging, even if you hate it. I told you you'd be proud. And if you ever need recommendations for bad true crime podcasts or ways to sneak farm cheese into fancy salads, I am your gal. Update 3. Before you ask, yes, I'm still in therapy, and yes, my bathroom is still aggressively teal, like if Tiffany and Company collaborated with Lisa Frank on a fever dream. But I can say, for the first time since all this started, I'm not quietly angry all the time. Or at least, not at him. English men, generally, remain suspect. As advised by roughly 400 Redditors, my DMs and text chains have remained a strict no-X zone. My self-esteem truly did a Rocky-style montage, complete with the triumphant music swelling whenever I declined a late-night unknown caller. My plants have doubled, my running shoes have been, well, walked at a brisk pace, if we're being honest. The ex-wife, now friend, I know, right? And I still text each other about every 6 weeks. She sends pictures of dog in bonnet. I send back whatever meal I'm burning/under seasoning in the name of wellness and not men. But let us get to the juice, because friends, the universe refused to let the curtain drop so neatly. About 6 weeks after our last ex-encounter, RIP, brief literary romance with bookstore man, things seemed on the up and up. I was finally breezing into summer, wearing abysmally large sunglasses and flirting with the idea of a Hinge profile. One Tuesday morning I get a call, not from a blockable number, but from my boss. In true 2024 fashion, our office had decided to reconnect through in-person collaboration, read, buy sad bagels, drink stale coffee, and occasionally lock eyes long enough to remember each other's names. So there I am, sitting at a conference table in a recycled air cubicle jungle, when I spot, swear to God, a familiar tuft of curly brown hair and a hunched, apologetic posture in the little Pete's coffee kiosk in our lobby. No British accent required, it's him. Benedict, hey, is serving coffee at Pete's. Reader, I nearly re-herniated everything in my torso from stifling a laugh. He didn't see me at first. I did what any emotionally mature adult would do. I took a selfie, emotionally supported by a day-old sesame bagel, and texted it to the ex-wife with the understated caption, "Guess who's a barista now?" She replied, "Is he still making up stories about farm animals?" With a sheep emoji, of course. Then, plot twist, my boss, coffee devotee, made a beeline for the kiosk. Yes, she recognized him. It turns out, Benedict started picking up shifts at the coffee stall after being laid off, and potentially divested from several non-profit projects, rumors swirling with as much energy as their espresso shots. My boss, who has the emotional subtlety of a whistling tea kettle, says loudly, "You dated that guy, right? The British one?" To which I nodded, and quietly willed myself to melt into the industrial carpeting. Now, if you thought awkward run-ins ended here, you'd underestimate the cursed hilarity of Boston. Over the next 3 weeks, I bump into Benedict at every single event with bad indie music and slightly stale craft beer. The local dog park, where I go with my neighbor's geriatric spaniel. There he is, untangling an uncooperative leash. Open mic night? Him again, playing a wobbly rendition of a Nick Drake song that should be criminally banned in all post-breakup radius zones. At first, the universe's insistence on this low-budget rom-com had me plotting a murder, in theory, Your Honor. But something shifted after the 4th run-in, when I caught his eye while buying a comically large jug of almond milk. He approached, nervous, but almost smaller than I remembered. He apologized, simply, in 3 words, "I was cruel." No excuses, none of the therapist speak or damp "I'll try harder" fluff. Just a grimace, and, I hope you're happier. By some cosmic grace, therapy, time, and rage cleanses, I simply replied, I am. That was it. The world didn't tilt, my mascara didn't run, and my day continued like it was any other Thursday. Here's the truly wild bit, the oddly magical serendipity of single life. Because the ex-wife, okay, we'll call her Jane now, as she definitely deserves a real name, and I decided to finally meet for drinks, in person, to celebrate our joint graduation from his bullshit. It was like a weird, tiny graduation party, two semi-well-adjusted women, ordering too many appetizers, giving a toast, to new partners, or just new books. We ended up laughing about everything. Jane is not a villain, or a cartoon, or any of the things I'd imagined before. She's just someone who got stuck inside a relationship tornado and clawed her way out. She admitted she's seriously considering moving to Portland with her new girlfriend, farm dog in tow, and is 75% done with swearing off men, or at least men who quote Sartre at parties. We made a pact, from here on, we tell each other if we even so much as spot a floppy-haired Englishman on the tee, and run away at top speed. We've decided to start an Instagram for our outlandishly bad DIYs. She's good at paint stripping, I'm good at painting things the wrong color, and maybe, just for fun, we'll release a zine called Women Who Dined and Ditched British Sociopaths. So, what's changed? Pretty much everything. I don't panic at 3 a.m. My phone is not a war zone of notifications. I'm, quite honestly, dating again, but with a much better bullshit meter. And if nothing else, I'll always have the memory of the world's worst osobuco, a friendship with an almost stranger, and the knowledge that nothing, soothes heartbreak quite like spite jogging, pebble beaches, and laughing about bad men until your face hurts. Bonus, my teal bathroom is now covered in sticky notes of absurd affirmations, written by Jane. My favorite, you are not a Victorian orphan. Underneath, but you would be the clever one in the third act twist. And as for Benedict? Someone recently told me he left the city for a new job somewhere upstate. I hope he finds better espresso, less drama, and maybe a good therapist. Because, truly, I'm done being anyone's emotional support animal. I'm lining my windowsills with lavender starts and planning my next impulsive road trip, and friends, it is glorious.